Good. I got the coaching voice. I apologize. Excited to be here. Excited to take questions. Before we get going, I do want to mention one thing. Our coaches clinic is tomorrow. Registration starts at 7 a.m. We're going to kick it off at about 9. We pieced this thing together quickly as we got here, but we're trying to make ourselves available to high school and youth coaches here, not only in Baton Rouge, but in the state. So as we're covering stuff tonight, our friends with the TV stations, if we could throw a graphic up there and maybe help us out a little bit, we'd appreciate it. Gave me an excuse to, Coach Kelly was kind enough to invite my dad to come down and be a speaker. Although he's going to be crabby because his flight was delayed 4 hours, so by the time he gets here. So I'm excited to have him around and show him LSU, and excited to hear him talk. And it'll be all of our coaches. The entire staff is going to be made available, and Coach Kelly, my dad. So we're looking forward to that. So any help you could give us there, we'd appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely, taking walk-ups. So we're going to do the clinic in the what do we call it? The South Club, South Stadium Club, up top. So it'll be a good deal. So appreciate that, and take any questions we have.
You've got all new specialists. Talk about the battles at punter and place kicker that you've seen so far this spring.
We do. We are brand new. And to be honest with you, the competition is not whole until we get to the summertime, when we add Jay Bramblett, when we add Nathan Dibbard, and we're going to add a young man by the name of Trey Finnison, who will join us as a preferred walk-on as a grad transfer from Northwestern. So I'm pleased thus far. I think Damian Ramos and Zeke Mata have done a good job. It's been a while since I coached a lefty, so that's been a little bit of an adjustment for me. But Nathan coming in is a lefty, so we're going to have to get used to that. We've really, only in the last couple of practices, got together as a complete field goal unit. So we were in the installation phase, but they're doing a good job. I'm encouraged. We started off today, I think 6 for 6 in period 1 to start the practice, which is something that's important to us. We want to, on days that we're kicking field goals in period 1, we want to make sure we start the practice off the right way for the rest of the team. We've been splitting reps. There's no starter. Is just evaluation right now, and trying to put them into as many competitive situations as possible. Peyton Todd's got a cannon. Obviously, he was coming off of surgery as a true freshman. He had an ankle surgery before he arrived. So, his true freshman year, I don't think he was quite whole. Avery did a great job of stepping in and filling that role. He's immensely talented. We just got to keep working on the fundamentals and keep getting used to us, and he's doing that, and it's a schematic change for him too, so that's a little different, but everybody's doing a good job. We've got to identify who the returners are going to be. We've got to get a second holder, whether it be a quarterback, a wideout, a skill player that can come in and be another holder. So there are a lot of evaluations going on. Spring football for us, Coach Kelly and I have always taken the approach that we want to have the punt team established by the end of spring football. We want to know who the punt team is, and we want that unit to have gone through roughly maybe 60% of the installation. Everything else is just trying to create competitives, trying to teach fundamentals, and just evaluate. So, on those days that we're out there starting up a drill and playing AC/DC, or, trying to get the blood pumping a little bit, those are competitive scenarios.
You mentioned Nathan Dibbard and Jay Bramblett. Obviously, they're not here yet, but just based on what you know about them and having been with Jay at Notre Dame, just what would you kind of describe about their games and what they'll be bringing once they get here?
As it relates to Nathan, the words used to describe him during his camp performance here, he was committed before I arrived. We honored that. We were happy to. I've never worked him out in person. But Coach McMahon and I have a good relationship. We've been friends. He talked about how unflappable the kid was. He came in here in the camp and was really, really steady, not too high, not too low, and really blew away the competition in the camp. And then Cade described him that way to me as well, which when you have an older player describing that's pretty good. I'm really excited for Jay to arrive. Jay is in, I was texting with him the other night. He's in the best emotional, mental space he's been. He was a Tuscaloosa guy that went to South Bend, Indiana. Jay is a Southern guy in his core. I know that he really valued his time at Notre Dame. He's going to walk out of there with a diploma, but he is really excited to be in the SEC. He's really excited to be back down south. And I can hear it in his voice. He stopped in a couple weeks ago to say hello, came down to look for a place. And just his whole demeanor right now is really, really energetic and positive. And I'm excited. One of the things that people don't know about Jay, and one of the reasons I loved him so much in the evaluation process, he was the starting quarterback at his high school. He was the best pitcher on the baseball team. He's got very, very high-level athletic skills, great ball skills. He's a wonderful holder. I mean, you watch him catch snaps and the way he molds, he can throw the ball. We've run a couple fakes with him because he's a real athlete. So, you know, I'm excited to welcome him into the family and begin to create some more competition there this summer.
Just some general questions, kind of getting to know you and your approach as well as Brian's. On the kickoffs, do you like to park it out of the end zone? You know, just real simple stuff like that. How do you view special teams? Do you feel like you can maybe win some games?
Oh, absolutely. I think if you look back on the Notre Dame season last year, I mean, there were 3 games that were won in the kicking game. There were 2 field goals made at the buzzer. And then we went into the Wisconsin game trailing in the fourth quarter and returned a kickoff 96 yards that started a great fourth quarter. We absolutely believe, and in the SEC where there is parity, everybody's got good players, the kicking game is going to be the difference 2, 3, 4 times a year. So we absolutely, from the head coach through me and every member of the staff that's involved, believe that the special teams units are incredibly important and that they are separators in games where teams might be equally matched. Our approach is you will see our best players out there. You'll see them on our coverage units because we believe that you have to cover kicks to win games. You got to cover punts and you got to protect the punter. I mean, think back to the Green Bay Packers. They get a punt blocked and they're out of the playoffs. I mean, you've got to be able to protect kickers. You got to be able to cover kicks to win games. And then we will, as it relates to personnel, there are spots where we will use our best players. And then there are roles for guys that will be 4-unit core special teams players that might be a backup on offense or defense, but will carve out a way to play winning football for us. And we view those players as starters. And really that's what we're doing right now is we're evaluating the roster, trying to figure out who those guys are going to be. Mike Jones has been fantastic. You know, you can expect to see him on the punt team. He'll probably cover kickoffs. Greg Penn's been awesome. Fouché, Brooks have been fantastic. And then think about younger players. I'm really excited about what we've seen from Colby Fields. I mean, he's in the drill work and what we're asking him to do is terrific. I really like Josh Williams. I mean, there's a guy that's a backup tailback that will most likely be a core player for us. You know, what can Jure give us as a big wide receiver? What can Gardner give us? What can, these young, what can Weeks give us, these new players into our program? That's what we're trying to evaluate right now. But we've been encouraged by a lot of the tape and a lot of what we're seeing on the field.
Yeah, hey, Coach. Glenn West with LSU Country. I know also another part of your job is the recruiting side. Just what are your early thoughts on maybe what the 2023 class kind of holds for you guys?
It's interesting. What the class will end up being is going to be dictated by the NCAA. Are we going to be back to 25 initials? Are we going to be at 32 like we were last year, which it feels like there might be a little bit of movement towards that? Or ultimately, will the NCAA say, listen, take as many initials as you need, just be at 85 on August the 1st? We're waiting for that direction from the NCAA because we're prepared in all three scenarios. It's unlikely if the number was back to 25 initials, there are going to be schools like us and a whole lot of others that are going to look at that and say, boy, can I get back to the full 85 if I'm only allowed 25 initials in the landscape of the portal and the transition that we went through? So, trying to set our board, identify our needs, I feel like we're in a really good place there. We have not had a cattle call on campus, which I'm okay with. We've had a lot of really upper echelon targeted players have been on our campus, and that's been a good thing. We've had a couple of junior days, which I think have gone really well. I'm not panicked by the fact that we have only a handful of commitments right now. I think things will speed up here over the next 4 to 6 weeks. We're set up for some summer visits, although we got to figure out how we're going to handle the heat. It's going to be a little bit different for us. But I feel like we're on pace. The evaluation process has been really thorough. The coaches have been fantastic. Coach Kelly's working his tail off. So I think we're where we're supposed to be, and I think we're working efficiently right now.
Hey, Shea Dixon with 24/7. Now that you've gotten, almost halfway into spring ball, where do things stand with your evaluation or Coach Kelly's evaluation of where y'all might still need to address some spots with, the few spots you still have remaining that could be, used in the transfer portal?
Sure, and I'm certainly not going to speak on Coach Kelly's behalf. From my evaluation, I think we're going to be open to a tight end if there's the right guy available at some point. I think we'd be open to an additional offensive lineman if we could find one. And I think we're always looking for defensive backs. We got to be smart about it. We only have a couple left in our pocket here. And we're not going to bring a player in that we don't feel like has the ability to impact us positively in some sort of role pretty quickly. That's an ongoing process. We're always collecting names. It's the nature of the portal. There's no set period. Guys come in and out, and I can promise you that when names go in and they show up on our radar, that daily we're making evaluations and trying to decide whether or not that guy can fit a role. But we got to be smart about it. We can't just do it to do it, because in the end, you're committing a scholarship, and if it's to a player that's got multiple years left, you got to be sure that that guy's going to be good enough to help you.
Hey, Coach, Billy Ambody with On3. With spring ball being a couple weeks in now, are there any positions that you guys feel like you might need to go heavier in the 2023 class, a little bit lighter maybe? How is it something that'll just continue on throughout the course of the entire offseason, really?
Yeah, I think it goes on throughout the course of the whole offseason. I think the areas that we felt like we were going to take multiple guys, like we know we're going to take at least 4 offensive linemen. Like that could change, but we're going. I mean, the areas that we know that we need to target, I don't think much has changed there. But obviously, it's always fluid. Academics, transfer portal, all those things could change the scenarios. But we had set a scholarship model, and we had set our priorities, pretty early, and I think they're holding pretty true right now.
Obviously, it is what it is. You can't really change it, but based on you've worked so closely with the transfer portal here for the last few months, what kind of changes might be helpful, like maybe in parameters? And there's been discussion amongst that with coaches, maybe having some open periods at different times. How could it maybe be streamlined in some ways?
Sure, and I want to make a point here. I'm speaking for myself and not LSU football or Brian Kelly. But if there were time, more specific time periods to, like, you can only, if you're not in by December 31st, the struggle for us, and I don't think very many people understand this, we're going to sign a class before our underclassmen are going to declare for the NFL, and then you still have guys going into the portal. So how do you truly address what your needs are until you pass those deadlines? So the December signing date's not changing. There was so much momentum to move the signing date up. But unfortunately, that NFL declaration date is after that signing date. So your needs could change after you've signed a class. If we could somehow shrink the window where guys can go into the portal, like, I don't think it's great when a young man comes back for the spring semester, you put him on scholarship, and 2 weeks later, he says, all right, I'm going in, but I'm going to finish the semester, and I'm going to do it on your dime. Like, I don't know if that's ideal. Again, that's just me personally. If we could kind of shrink down these windows, I have no issue with the fact that they get the one-time waiver and players are given the freedom to find a better situation for themselves. But there's got to be, I would hope, a little bit more guidance in terms of helping us manage our rosters and figure out what our needs are.
Hey, Coach. Chris Langley with LSU Tiger TV. Earlier it was announced today that the LHSAA would allow student athletes to benefit from NIL deals. Is that something that could potentially, either be a benefit or a harm to recruiting? Maybe not for 2023, but for the 2024 class and beyond for at least Louisiana recruits?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't want to dive into that because I'd only read that as we were walking onto the practice field. The ship has left the port, so we're going to have to figure out how to make it work. I'd be more concerned about, right now, high schools trying to put together NIL deals to recruit players to their places. I mean, I don't think that's what high school sports should be about, but we're living in a different time and things are shifting, and unless we can control these things, which in reality we cannot, we have to adjust and figure out, what's best. But as it relates to that issue specifically, we've not given it a ton of thought because it just popped up on our radar.
Coach, that's time for two more. It's just a recruiting question. I read this piece about that Bruce did, I think, with Coach Kelly about the dining hall. And Notre Dame is such a national brand, a global brand, whatever. You recruited at a very high level. Have you noticed any contextual differences now that you're in the SEC? Is it drastically different? Do you just have more resources available to you? How would you describe the differences?
It's still relationship based no matter where you're at, whether it be Notre Dame, Stanford, Texas A&M, LSU, handful of places that I've been. It's still relationship driven. There is, I think, in some cases, a more emotional connection with the geography when we recruit here, that there are players that know immediately, I want to play in the SEC. Or a young man like Will Campbell, who, I want to be an LSU Tiger. There are advantages and disadvantages at every single job. There is no perfect job. And you just have to figure out what they are, accentuate what your advantages are, and try to make up for the places that you feel like you might be at a disadvantage, and constantly try and close those gaps. We can recruit a smaller footprint here, which I think is a good thing. I think it's going to make us more effective as a staff. When you have to fly, I'll give you an example. I think our last roster at Notre Dame was comprised of 31 or 32 different states. So to fly from Jersey to Hawaii to build a roster, that's difficult, and it makes it hard to establish rapport in areas with high school coaches because you're in and out. I think we're in a situation here where we can build a stronger base because it's available to us. And there are things, look, facilities matter, and to ignore that, I think would be silly. And to walk in and be able to show a prospect that dining facility is incredible. To show them that weight room and all the things that we have here, though, you know, they matter. And to ignore that is a little bit naive, you know. And so, again, we have unbelievable facilities. We have great people. We have a really good education. I mean, I think when a young man is looking for something specific, we have most of it in our arsenal.
Your dad coming in tomorrow. I think your brother's in football as well.
Both brothers.
Both brothers. Very much a football family then. How would you describe the role this sport has played in y'all's entire family?
Oh, boy. It is woven into the fabric of our existence. My mom and my sister's the oldest, Lynn, who's an unbelievable teacher in Charlotte, North Carolina. But she grew up going to games. She was in 4 high schools in 4 years. And I mean, it was really interesting when the Colts won the Super Bowl. My dad not only got a pendant for my mom, which was the top of the ring, got one for my sister as well, as an acknowledgement of, hey, I know you don't work in the business, but you've sacrificed personally so that our family could be on this journey. And for him to recognize that, and for my brothers and I to not only be close because of our, you know, our relationship as siblings and our relationship with our parents, but to be able to lean on each other professionally, to seek advice, to, hey, what did you think of this? What'd you do here? My older brother, Chris, is the director of pro personnel for the Washington Commanders. My younger brother, Dennis, is the senior associate AD for football at Baylor with Coach Aranda. So it's woven into the fabric of everything that we do, right, wrong, or indifferent, to the point where when my wife, Laura, when we got engaged, my mother took her out for lunch and said, hey, listen, we need to talk about what this life is going to be like, because my mom married a history teacher, and my dad was teaching history in the Bronx and found his way into football, college coach, small college coaching, and then into personnel. And that journey ended up in Canton, Ohio, which is incredible, but it was a journey. And there was moves and there's sacrifice and all those things. And my mom wanted to be sure that my wife, Laura, knew exactly what she was getting into. And our family will all be together this July. My parents both turn 80 this year, and we can't get together in the fall because we're all kind of busy. So we're going to Buffalo this July. We got a house, and we're all going to get together and enjoy each other's company. And let's see if maybe Baylor and LSU can't find each other in a bowl game and talk wild to each other for a while. So, no, it's been great. I appreciate that question, too. We good? Have a great day, guys. Thank you.